Auzubillahi Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We continue our discussions of the different ideas that have emanated from the beginning of civilization. We have covered we covered realism, idealism, solipsism, and last time we covered dialectism and trivialism. We continue with our discussion with existentialism. However, before we go, I just want to put on record something here that was unfinished last time. There's nothing wrong in studying these things to apply to make a washing machine or to make a car or fly a plane. If you want to apply these principles to make machines and make motor cars and improve your quality of life, there's nothing wrong there. Islam does not forbid, or I am not against those things. The problem comes in as Muslims or as intrinsically in philosophy is when you start applying these things into machines and making washing machines and other AIs, and you think because they work there, therefore they have some kind of metaphysical truth. That is the problem. These ideas, if any idea, not only this, any idea that is applied to make motor cars, machines, software, good. But if you take the jump that from this, it means that we can answer, let me be very specific, we can answer these three questions: where we came from, what's our purpose here, and where we are going. If you think if that jump is made, that is where Islam specifically and philosophy in general has a problem. This is Iman. We accept that this is our starting point. The source of guidance, Hidayah, Sirat al-Mustaqim, can only be known through the rahmah of Allah, who sends Rasul to us to give us that direction. So I hope this point is clear. You can apply this to making tools and technology, no problem. But when you make that jump, then we have an issue. So let's continue. What is existentialism? This is a theory which is I will say is a kind of synthesis of Western thought with Eastern thought. That's the way I think about it, but that doesn't mean that that's what it is. It became very prominent during the 19th and 20th century, and the basic tenet of this philosophy is that existence precedes essence. I mean, this might is like a loaded term there. People might find, but basically it makes the thing that I exist. I exist. Therefore, everything is true, or that is reality. So once I'm out of existence, then there's nothing there. Same thing is very close to what we are talking about, solipsism and realism. It's for the moment. And where was that? So the identity of value is created by the individual. I exist, therefore it is. Once I am gone, finish. Pragmatism is a kind of philosophical movement rather than a philosophy. I included it here because is one of the predominant philosophical thought in United States. And it's the whole thing is, if something is practical, it's practically useful, then that's correct. And it has been used by different philosophers, by different people. We have a whole, what's the difference between pragmatism and utilitarianism? Honestly, I think there's very little difference. From a practical point of view, there is a theoretical difference, but Basically, whatever works, whatever is this is the only difference. Whatever works is pragmatism, and whatever is useful, that's utilitarianism. So there's much overlap between them. Now we come to the second part of philosophical thoughts that is called monism and dualism. Here, remember that diagram that I showed you. I can't go back to it, but if you think about it, think of reality as this is a different division of thought itself. Let me explain this. Basically, here the debate is in not ideas but itself. What's the body and soul? What's the connection? How does the body and soul differentiate? And how does body and mind, body and brain, what is consciousness? Basically, this debate is called the mind-body problem, which everybody knows. It's from time immemorial. And these are the four basic problems of today's body, in today's terms. What are the difference? What is the four problems of body and mind? I'm not going into details about this. What I'm trying to say here is basically if you look at it from a mind-body problem, there are only two philosophies: monism and dualism. Monism means there's only one thing, one unifying reality that goes through all, through nature. And dualism means there's a difference between mind and matter. Mind is different and matter is different. Now this is where Muslims get confused, and then they apply this thought to say, putting mind instead and say ruh is different from the jism. This is the application of philosophy into Islam, or you're trying to do synthesis there. We should avoid that, because that is not what this ideas means. But anyway, this is what has happened. So there are three main forms of monism: physicalism, idealism, and neutral monism. Forget about neutral monism. Basically, in this diagram, do I have a diagram here? Yes, I have a diagram here. So what is the difference between dualism and monism? A monist believes that there's one reality, and the physicalist thinks matter is greater than mind. Out of matter comes consciousness. You get that? So everything from matter, from atoms, human beings. So the matter is greater than mind. Out of the atoms, this is how we think. Idealist thinks the mind is greater than the matter, meaning mind, consciousness is something else, and then it gives meaning to matter. And there's a third one here. I don't have the. There's a third one here that says neutral monism, which says there's a third substance which is greater than matter and mind. You can see on the philosophy. I don't know. I find it very interesting. What is the third substance? That unknown. We have to find it.
Something is.
Something, exactly.
Thoughts?
Sorry?
Thoughts, probably.
Thoughts, ideas, different kinds of, you name it and you get it.
Yeah. So we can put anything in there. Shaitan.
Here, dualism here makes it distinct. It says no, matter and mind are two different things. They are connected, but they are two different things. That is all that I'm going to talk about dualism, monism. Remember, this is all you need to know. So if a person is approaching, from this school of thought, if somebody is coming from this school of thought, what will he say about Islam? Where does Islam fall here? If somebody is a philosopher, where will he categorize Islam?
Neutral mono is better.
No, he puts it here. Or he will put it here. Either one, you can't decide yet, right? Depend on the philosopher. Either he will put Islam in this category, or you put Islam in this category. You can see this, right? So that's about all that I'm going to talk about monism and dualism. What is the impact on this, on today's thing? I'll tell you what is the impact. Can I? This is much easier for me to see. So I will turn around and say, this is the implication of this issue in today's modern times. So you can see, we started, this is the mind, this is anti-realism, realism, and all the way down here, these are the today's logical behaviorism and token identity theory. These are the new incarnations of these thoughts. So if someone says token identity theory, you will not be, people will be saying, oh, this is something new. But actually, what they are talking about is either they are monist or dualist. Any questions? I want to, that's all I want to talk about. Monism, I've covered there, but again, they believe there's only one substance.
So let's go back to a couple of slides.
This one? This one? Let me explain.
Go back.
Let me explain this monism to you.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Let's go back.
Okay.
This one.
This one?
This one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the thing is like this is what is the origin of this dualism and monism?
Basically, the question is the mind-body problem. Mind-body problem in philosophy or in human thought. I shouldn't say philosophy. Human thought is everybody knows there's a mind, and everybody knows there's a body. What is the connection between the mind and body? Everybody thinks about it. Everybody knows there is a mind, which is either here or here. There's a debate on that. Up almost 2,500 years of Western philosophical thought placed the mind here. In the last 150, 200 years, the mind has moved from here to here. This is modern thought I'm talking about, from Aristotle, Socrates downwards. People used to accept that the mind was somewhere in the heart. Then, as ideas progressed, they placed the mind in the brain. Where is the mind? Forget about it, where the mind is. The question is, so the question now is, there's two thoughts about this. Does the matter give rise to mind? Do electrons, protons combine together in a certain configuration, making molecules, and then out of molecules they make compounds, and out of compounds they make, genes, and the genes, chromosomes, and then the chromosomes gives rise to the human mind. So if you are from the physicalist school of thought, reductionism will tell you that yes, matter is what gives rise to mind. Right? If you are not from that school of thought, if you are from the idealism school of thought, remember, physicalism is coming from realism.
Yeah.
If you are coming from the idealist, they says ideas are more important. So the matter is subservient to mind. Now, these two ideas have been
Especially after the double slits experiment.
and all those, exactly. Those are experiments that will tell you that matter is not subservient. Matter is not
conscious
it
supersedes.
supersedes matter.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
so
But the Muslim point of view is also interesting, which we're supposed to mention here as well, that the concept of ruh.
exactly, but the concept of ruh does not fall in this domain. This is
the problem. Now, Muslim has been taught and brought up with this idea that there is a ruh in you,
yes,
right? And it comes from Allah.
yes,
And Allah created all these arwah one time together, and now it's been sending down, and it gets amalgamated with body, right? Now, this person who grown up with this idea, but when he goes to secular education,
then he mixes this with,
then he doesn't realize that the people who are teaching them and the people whom this person is getting acquainted with, they are influenced by these thoughts.
not influence, they are proposing these thoughts.
They are a holder of these thoughts.
Correct.
Now he gets influenced and he doesn't realize that his ideas have been influenced and polluted.
Correct.
Right?
You will see what is going to happen to dualist monist. Give me 5 more slides and you'll see what happened. I'll give you the Islamic perspective very soon. So basically, this is all that I have to say about this issue. And the modern monism is brainchild of these people here, and we will talk about them later on when we talk about materialism in detail, which is the pillar of secularism, which is one of the key pillars of secularism is materialism. So we need to understand, that's why I put it there for as an introduction. Let me just stop here a little bit and use a metaphor. Please, I want your attention on this one here, everyone. Please. When we drive, or when we started learning to drive, what are the basic things that we try to learn? Steering, dashboard, brakes, brake light, headlight, wiper, and gas tank. Did any one of us try to understand how to change an oil filter? Did any one of us try to understand how to change the timing belt? No.
No.
No. What was required for you and me to go from point A to B was those 5 or couple of things you can add there. Correct?
Yeah.
This is the same attitude we should bring to these ideas too. We need to understand the basic so that we can differentiate what is Islam and what is Jahiliyyah. And I'm using the word Jahiliyyah deliberately here.
Yeah.
No one goes to understand. If a driver starts telling you that you need to understand internal principles of internal combustion engine, do you think anybody will be able to drive in this world as a prerequisite to driving? No. So the idea behind these presentations is not that we are making you an automotive engineer. We are, as a collective effort, we are trying to understand what is the basic difference between Islam and Jahiliyyah. And for that, all you need to understand is the basics. Yeah, there's no one is preventing you from advancing. Am I right? Or, I can give you other examples, other metaphors, but this is very important. This I think is a mental block for us when we approach these ideas. We think of them as some very huge, complicated, things. Just imagine how complicated an automobile is. Is it not very complicated to put it together? If I were to tell you all the principles involved, will you ever become a driver? Never. So the point of these things, so here, the basic pillar of secularism is materialism. And this is why the introduction is here of monism and materialism, which we will discuss further when we discuss moral philosophy. Out of this monistic metaphysical concept, we get the moral philosophy of secularism. Here there are different, you can see there are many types of monism here. There are many types of dualism here. So remember what my goal was? I wanted to show you that just because people are saying Muslims are different sects and different, they don't agree on each other. Look at how many sects of philosophers you can make. See the implications of metaphysical monism is an ethical dualism, and so on and so forth. You have social dualism, and you'll be very surprised how these ideas actually affect our modern concepts. What we are taught today, what Brother Fawad was pointing out, when we go to school, we have no idea when they are talking about things where they are coming from. We literally have no idea. We have economic dualism. So there are different varieties of dualism. Then there is also the third one, that third aspect that is called trialism. Remember that diagram that I showed you where there's a third, that is, you could call it a trialism. So this is where Brother Fawaz's next slides will tell you how these things affected Muslims. Monopsychism and panpsychism are two concepts which I will explain in later slide. But basically this means, monopsychism means there's one single soul in the whole universe which is in all of our bodies. Very difficult to grasp, right? Very difficult to grasp. One single soul, one intellect in everything in the universe. Panpsychism, I'm oversimplifying these things. Remember this. So, panpsychism is basically everything has a soul. See the difference? One single soul and everything has a soul. So, who was most influenced by monopsychism? Ibn Rushd in Spain. He went out of his way to synthesize the philosophy of monopsychism with Islam, with the aqidah of Islam.
What are the examples of it? What are the examples?
So, Brother Fawad, you alluded to how it influenced this thing. See how Ibn Rushd, and monopsychism is one of the central pillars of, if you look at all the Eastern philosophies.
So one electron theory.
Yeah, is a good example of monopsychism. One electron theory is the modern version or modern incarnation of monopsychism. No, good, you got that one. Huh? I forgot about that. Yeah. See, you think it is a modern concept. It is not.
In fact, in Islam, if you see, there is a concept of panpsychism, and it reflected in a fashion that there are people who actually talk to non-living things.
So I will come to that a little bit. So monopsychism, modern concepts of monopsychism. Again, I'm not going to the details. There's a big story that has been translated, put on the internet, and it has been widely read. And you can go and read the story itself. All these concepts here that you see here are all one way or the other related to monopsychism. I put Sufi metaphysics here in red because it synthesizes this concept of monopsychism with Islam. It synthesizes, meaning it takes some part here and some part here and then mixes it up. So what is it called? What was it called? What is his name? Wahadatul Wujud
Wahdatul Wujud
is a synthesis of monopsychism or / panpsychism. It depends on how you define that, and you mix it with Islam. And these are very dangerous concepts. These are very dangerous concepts. Panpsychism, as I said, is the idea that everything has a soul. So again, people make the jump. Oh, isn't that the Quran says everybody is doing hamd for Allah? So it means everything is conscious, and then therefore panpsychism is correct.
Yeah.
You see, immediately as soon as I remember reading this, and those ayat started coming to my mind. Yes and no. Those ideas should come to your mind, but the concept of panpsychism is not the same as what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about hamd. You see, this is where these are very thin lines that we don't, these are ghaib. Allah ta'ala has not told us, He has just given us a hint. We cannot construct a whole theory out of it. See, there's a difference between what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to his Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who has told us, is different from the fact that out of that we build a whole conjecture and theory out of it, and then believe that to be the truth and replace it with the wahi. This is what these philosophers are doing. They come with ideas, and then after these ideas formulate, they say this is the truth, this is the way to haqq, and this is where the problem starts. And one interesting thing about this thing is panpsychism. When modern science started, it had broke away from philosophy. It denied panpsychism. Do you understand? Modern science denied panpsychism, but coming back full circle, it has accepted panpsychism. If you accept the Big Bang, you have to accept panpsychism.
Because it was one object and then divided.
So is a long way to explain this thing.
It's the same thing, but in different
All problems.
The conscious theory, the consciousness theory.
And let me show you how.
Living matter has consciousness. About the double slit experiment, and they proved that. So after that, it proceeded.
So
matter has been consciousness precedes matter.
So what happened? It declined during the 19th and 20th century because of science. It denied it. Now, with the hard problem of consciousness, philosophy of consciousness, and philosophy of neuroscience and other stuff, is coming back. And look at what they have to say. And these ideas, remember, this is not a recent idea. This is old. Plato and Hindu philosophers have already talked about this. So, look at this article here. This year. What does it? The idea that everything from spoons to stone is conscious is gaining academic credibility. And do you know what it is called? This new form? It is called integrated information theory. So a student who goes to university college, is taking neuroscience and philosophy classes, or robotics classes, they will come across integrated information theory, and there's no way they can link this back to panpsychism. And how do I link it back? Am I making my own this thing? No. What does Chalmers says? If you think about consciousness long enough, you either become a panpsychist or you go into administration. All these are forms of panpsychisms coming here, back here.
So you mean that this last statement you just read is the later part is a jokes only, first possibilities is outcome.
Exactly. Look at this. Look at all these concepts that are, this is so much I can't go into details on these things. Gaia hypothesis. I don't know how many people have understood, have come across Gaia hypothesis. It is basically the hypothesis that the earth itself is a living organism as a whole. Okay? Which is the same thing as Mother Nature. That is what is back again. Gaia actually is the Greek goddess.
Taoism is running on that.
Holographic integrated information theory. I already told you. Who are the philosophers who have been?
Consciousness.
Yeah. Who are the philosophers who have been who have accepted panpsychism? Leibniz, Spinoza. You will come across Spinoza. Spinoza was much influenced by Ibn Rushd, and Spinoza went on to influence the Enlightenment of Western Europe. He is called the Prince of Philosophers. His philosophy is panpsychism. Whitehead, he is the one who wrote Principia Mathematica. Mathematics and panpsychism, I don't think they go hand in hand, but he believes. So these are some people I'm just telling you about. So this is the question here. Is the integrated information theory of consciousness compatible with Russellian panpsychism? This is a academic paper. And What does it say? Given either of these modifications, IIT and Rosalian panpsychism may be fully compatible after all and jointly enable significant progress on the mind-body problem. Imagine somebody reading this without proper understanding of Iman. You know where they're going?
How much you agree with that? That the human mind seeks purpose.
Of course, it seeks purpose. Of course.
Just let me say that. So, human mind tends to seek purpose in whatever the person is doing. Now, if you take all of these, you'll find glimpses in Islam, of these kind of
Ideas.
You see the glimpses. But then Islam draws a person towards an objectivity which was mentioned as the mission of Prophet ﷺ. Right? So if you want this, what message I'm getting here is that what Islam does talk about these ideas, but then it brings the audience towards the objectivity of Islam, which was وَالَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. Now he should work in the same direction of Prophet ﷺ did, and for the same purpose and objective of Prophet ﷺ did. And in the minute you lose the sight of that your purpose is not the purpose of Prophet ﷺ, your purpose is not, your objectivity of Islam is not Ghalba Deen Haq. Right? So obviously your mind tends to find objectivity, and then you end up finding objectivity in other domains, though the ideas are there. How much do you agree with this?
I agree with you totally on that. I'll just add one more, dimension. Not add to you. This is add one more dimension to this. Remember the parable of the elephant and the 9 blind men?
Yeah.
Look, this is the assertion of the Rasul. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alif Lamim Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fi Hudan Lil Muttaqina Lazina Yuminuna Bil Ghaib. We accept the Ghaib as Rasul has told us, either in the Quran or in the Hadith. We are not going to be blind men, looking at the elephant and then coming up with conjectures.
Yeah, but what you're saying is understood as being blindness. Andhi taqleed, andha iman.
So,
blind
no. We are going to accept.
Now, ghaib has been translated into blindness.
That is wrong.
This is a serious thing. People are getting this influence that Muslims, they believe in ghaib. That means that they just blindly believe.
No.
This is what you.
No. After you carefully think about these things, about the ghaib, how? Okay, let me ask. How? There's no way. There's no theory, as a whole, as a comprehensive whole, can give you satisfaction, resolve so many issues, other than Islam. If you want to, I'm using the word theory in a very narrow sense here. Don't misunderstand me here. Look, if you look at panpsychism, and especially how many times variety of panpsychism is, Rosalian panpsychism, okay, is one form. If you look at there, you know who Pandrat Russell was, right? He was the 20th century philosophers. You want me to open his book and his biography and tell you how much he believed, what he believed, what he practiced? You see, one of the important things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and this ayat is quite frequently in the Quran, he chooses his Rasul. And the people, what were they objecting to? Why did he choose you? What's the point here? Allah Ta'ala is saying, look, I choose people in my own hikmah to send guidance. Not everybody can be guided. In the Sharia, in the ghaib, in the akhirah. See, forget about all the ghaib. The main thing is ghaib, the akhirah. Is there life after death or not? And honestly, if you cannot answer this question, either way, or whichever way you answer, it is the defining moral foundation on which everything is based in, either as an individual or as a society. Because if you do not believe that there's life after death, these consequences are so, we have gone through I don't want to enumerate the consequences again. You can either be hedonistic or be fatalistic. Either you become hedonist, meaning enjoy whatever you want to
Pain
enjoy,
and pleasure, the god of pain and pleasure.
right? Or you kill yourself immediately.
Nihilist.
Nihilist. Because that itself, and how does it start? It starts from La ilaha illallah. That sentence, that word, it is going to, this is the characteristics by which all foundations, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. It is what is going to do. Either you accept it, look, there's no compulsion. There's no compulsion by force, you have to accept it. If you believe, if you accept it as your starting point, look, I didn't say believe. I didn't say believe. I said accept it. Accept. And then build your world viewpoint, or you negate it and build your world viewpoint. Belief will come later on. That's, and look at, so let's continue with the, look at what people are talking about integrated information theory. The guy who formulated the theory, what does he say? How close is this position to panpsychism, which holds that everything in the universe has some kind of conscious? Certainly, the IIT implies that many entities, as long as they include some functional mechanisms that can make choices between alternatives, have some degree of consciousness. Unlike traditional panpsychism, however, the IIT does not attribute consciousness indiscriminately to all things. That's all the favor he has done to us.
Yeah, I mean, there's an influence.
Huh?
Influence flowing through these modern
Ideas. That's all. So if somebody comes to me now, forget about other people. If somebody comes to me and throws me integrated information theory down my throat, you know how I will react to this.
Yeah, but this is, unfortunately, we are not reacting like that, because we don't know what's going on. Because unfortunately, whatever the modern secular knowledge is developed, has influences, terrible influences from these ancient ideas, right, with the new labels on it. So when they teach all these things, a lot of things, and a lot of vocations, and a lot of faculties. So this has been shoveled down the throat.
So
people are getting influenced.
Yes. So I'll come back to the same thing here. I react very strongly to these theories. I do. Because I'm not quoting anybody else. I'm quoting the author who himself has developed this theory. He himself accepts that this is panpsychism. This is shirk. As far as I'm concerned, it's shirk. I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm showing you this. Whether you agree or disagree, that's you have to make that judgment. You see, I'm not going to give a fatwa saying integrated information theory is shirk. What I'm going to tell you is that I personally have come to the conclusion after reading all this that this is shirk. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. That's up to you. I have demonstrated this. If you disagree with me, please explain. If you agree with me, fine. Still explain to me. But if somebody else comes and says, I disagree with you, and does not provide any evidence to the contrary, then that's wrong. If they disagree that this is not panpsychism, they should demonstrate that to me.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, if you hire a Indo-Pak cook to cook Chinese food, you will find some flavor of his spices, what he's going to use. Similarly, I mean, when this modern world has been carved by the modern world which we're living, especially the West, is carved by Western thinkers. So how is it possible that you get the product which is not influenced by these ancient thoughts? Unfortunately, the blame goes on Muslims because what they carved, they are stuck in traditional things and they are stuck in a limited scope of understanding of Islam, and they couldn't take those principles into develop some worldly knowledge out of it. So that's something which we are suffering. We are facing.
So on that note, I just remind me to give you that presentation on algebra. Just there's a 10-minute thing after we close this. So basically, this is what we are trying to highlight. So what is the current status of panpsychism? It has 6 active lines of inquiry: process philosophy, quantum physics approach, which brother just was talking about, information theory approach, part-whole hierarchy, non-linear dynamics approach, real physicalism. Think about this. All these things all these ideas that are talking about, there's no way, if somebody has not seen through these things, there's no way you can link to these ideas to panpsychism, to shirk.
I mean, two major serious effects I've been observing in the society. One is through education system and through movies, what they've been making. Go back, please. Go back. Well, especially the real physicalism and quantum physics approach, right? So what we are seeing, the two very serious effects is, number one, it's people getting more and more materialistic. You know, their belief, the use of logic and rationality which they use, they believe more in the seriousness and the reality of the physicalism. You know, physical reality is proceeding. It's taking more prominent position in their lives, right? This is one effect. And second effect, which is related to it, is the transformation from nurturing soul to body. You know, as mentioned by Dr. Shah Rahmanullah in his paper of the Islamic Renaissance, The Real Task Ahead, in which he said that there's a transformation from soul to body. People are more and more nourishing and focused and spending their energy.
Because we have moved away from the akhirah to the dunya.
Yes.
Because these ideas do not nurture any metaphysical, anything life after death.
So the impact of these ideas is taking its toll. It's causing the effects. It's getting prevalent. Now it has gone to an extent, the third point, that we are using this lens
Back
to judge Islam.
very important point. This is much more serious. Going
When we
away.
want to see an Islam, we use two things. Number one, the minute an ayah or hadith come to us, immediately we draw out our rationality and judge it. What do we judge? We judge the authenticity of it.
Based on
Ayah comes in front of you. We use our intellect and rationality,
of modern
judge.
today.
and we don't realize, fine, that's no harm in using rationality. I'm not saying that don't use it. What I'm saying that the rationality which the particular rationality which we are using has a paradigm effect of these thoughts, which has been injected to us throughout our educational career of secular education we've been going through. And if you go to traditional education systems, in Islam especially, they don't teach these things.
No, they aren't even aware of this.
So, I mean, both sides are totally unaware of these serious effects which these things are causing.
So I'll give you one specific example. In my something I had was, I had somebody talk to me about neuroscience, and they were using the quantum physics approach. And to be very specific, they were using the physicalism to explain consciousness. These are Muslims people. And so, addressing a point that we were talking about, this is something I talked about last time too. I am comfortable in discussing these ideas and other ideas with either traditional people or non-traditional people. I can sit in their circles. But they will not sit, they are not able to communicate, come and understand what I am trying to explain. Same thing on an organizational level. This is what I want to explain here. I can go and sit down. I'm just putting names here for explanation, not picking people out. I can easily adjust myself and sit in a halaqah of Tablighi Jamaat, of Ikhwan, and a Sufi gathering, but they will not be able to, they do not want to join what we are trying to explain here.
Next week.
So we will continue from this here, and basically this ends metaphysics here, and there will be some few questions and answers. I would specifically touch upon the implications of these theories on religion, and then we will start with moral philosophy.